Have you ever considered hiring a coach? Well, today you can find out why you should with Missy Shropshire. Missy's a coach. She's a best-selling author of the book Forces at Work. It helps you find your passion. She's a phenomenal person. I've known her for quite some time, and I think you'll really enjoy the show. So please listen, and please buy her book, Forces at Work. Thanks so much. Enjoy the show. Welcome to Indy's Real Estate Gurus, your ultimate guide to the dynamic world of real estate in Indiana. And I'm Rick Ripma, your hardworking mortgage guy, and I've been in real estate and mortgages for over 24 years.
And I'm Ian Arnold, a loan officer on Rick's hardworking mortgage team, and we are both with Advisors Mortgage Group. Together, we'll empower you with expert advice, market trends, and successful stories from guru realtors and local experts.
Whether you're a homeowner, investor, or pro, join us as we navigate the thriving Indy real estate market.
Now get ready to unlock the doors of success, one episode at a time.
Well, welcome everybody. We really appreciate you all being here. Today we have Missy Shropshire. Missy, welcome. Thanks so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. And you're not a real estate agent. You do a lot of things other than being a best-selling author, right? You wrote the book Forces at Work. What else? How else do you spend your time?
Well, I'm a mom and a wife. I've been married for almost 30 years. So we'll celebrate 30th wedding anniversary in September. And I have 3 children. My youngest is 18 and is a senior, is in high school. So he's graduating in a few weeks. So that's kind of opening up a whole new stage of life. And I'm also a grandma. So
wow, congratulations.
Busy.
Yeah. It's interesting when the kids move out, because my youngest is now 31. And so obviously he moved out years ago, but it took a little while for us. Now you'll probably be better prepared for this, but he moves out, and about 6 months after he's in school, I looked at my wife and I said, we got to do something. This is boring as boring could get, because your life was wrapped around all the things, all the activities that they did.
Yeah. It's interesting that I'm approaching this stage of life because I'm also moving into this stage with my coaching. I've had several people, just like highly ultra successful people who are now wanting to retire, and they figured out the financial piece of it, but the emotional and kind of mental piece of it, they're looking for help with that. Like, how do I move into the next stage of my life with a sense of purpose and fulfillment when I'm so used to being this or doing this? So it's actually kind of fun that that's opening up in my space right now, is to help people with that.
Yeah, that's why I'm never retiring.
Me either. I say that all the time. And I think, and we may talk about this today too, Rick, is that, I really like to blur the lines between my personal and professional life. And I think when we're operating from a sense of alignment and purpose, work doesn't always feel like work. It feels fun and it feels fulfilling. So, and that's really what the book is all about too. It's how to be a force at work wherever you are, in your personal life and in your professional life.
Well, I am a huge believer in coaching, and I will tell you, I've had 170, 180 real estate agents on, top agents in the city, and almost to a person, they believe in coaching. They have somebody there. I think it helps to have somebody you're paying to coach you and hold you accountable. But I also think there's different stages for coaching. Mm-hmm. I was thinking about this the other day. You just mentioned it, which is kind of funny, because I was thinking about it. I thought, because I know when you were coming on. So what is somebody who's they've got tons of experience in real estate. They're doing well. Why do they need a coach? How can you help that type of person?
Yeah, well, I think it's because we're always all growing. And, I like to use the example of Peyton Manning. Peyton Manning never got to the point where he was like, I don't think I need a coach anymore. It's like people who want to be excellent and who really want to reach their full potential. That's who utilizes a coach. And I think people have misconceptions about what coaching is. It's really not like the sports analogy. It's not the perfect analogy, because in the sports analogy, a coach is drawing up the plays and telling you what to do. And in business coaching or in life coaching, a really good coach is creating space. because we have a lot of internal wisdom and a lot of ideas and creativity that we don't tap into on a day-to-day basis. So a good coach is going to create space for people, high achievers, to come in and talk through their ideas, to sort things out. And also there's that accountability piece. But I think my role as a coach is to create space and then also to be the keeper of the story and to maintain the bigger picture. So I can remind people, hey, this was the vision you shared with me when we first started. Is that still what we're working towards? And so I think that's what people find most helpful, is just to really have kind of a professional partner who is not, that you're not married to, that is objective and is just holding that space and helping you really reach your potential.
Yeah, I know. For me, with my coach, I know that he'll hold me accountable, which is, and it's not that they actually have to, because knowing you got to talk to them, you kind of do, I don't really want to do this, but I'm going to do it because they told me I have to, right? And so you do that, but it was not what I thought. It took me a long time to do a coach, because I remember coach, and I was not really much into sports, but I did play sports in school, but I was never any good. And so I remember coaches that pretty much what they did is they yelled at you and they told you everything you were doing wrong. And what really it is you're you uplift people. And you help us remember, because even, I've done this a long time. I've been in sales my entire life. So have you, right? You've been in sales.
Oh, yeah. And I was in real estate for a short time too. So I understand the kind of the background and the struggle.
Yeah.
But
we forget certain things. That's what I find. I used to, when I sold new homes, I used to tape myself. And when I was whether I was doing well or doing poorly, but when I was doing poorly, I could listen to those tapes, and then I could go back and listen to the tapes on people when I was doing well. And it was amazing. You go, I'm not saying that anymore.
Yeah. So you were gathering your own feedback.
Yes.
And that's another thing a coach does, is sometimes when I just repeat back to people what they say to me, it sounds different coming back. And we use this analogy all the time, that it's hard to read the label from inside the jar. And so part of what I do is I help people see themselves how others see them. And what's really interesting, Rick, is that people we're hard on ourselves, and we tend to focus on where we need to improve and what we need to do better. And as a coach, I can help people kind of shift into utilizing their strengths more and recognizing their strengths more. A lot of times people don't even realize what their true strengths are until they kind of get into that coaching space. And then life and work just gets a whole lot easier.
Yeah, it makes a big difference when you get aligned. And that's I think a big thing of what you do is actually one of my questions. So before we get into that one, let's go to, we talked about the high achieving, very successful people, but what about a new real estate agent? I believe they need coaching, and even the middle ground. There's coaching helps all of that area. So how as opposed to somebody who's got all the experience, how can you help somebody who's new?
Yeah, I mean, I think it would be the same advice I would give in almost any industry, is that you've got to be educated, you've got to get the skills, you've got to learn best practices, conventional wisdom, what has worked for others. And I know when I was coming up in my sales career, I had a bench of mentors, and these were mentors that I never even met because they'd written books, I'd seen them speak. So I think get mentors, but in your search for mentors, make sure that you don't try to become someone else. You have to put that through the filter of who you are and show up authentically. I like to gather all the resources, gather a lot, learn from the best, learn from people who are doing great, and then have some time to process and think through, how can I emulate that in a way that's authentic and true to who I am?
Yeah, I think, I hadn't thought of that. But that's really critical, because you're never going to be what you're capable of being when you're trying to be somebody else.
Yeah. So true. And, I believe this is what drives my business and all of my work is that I believe each one of us has a unique and important purpose to find and fulfill. And I love drawing that out in people. And whether it's in real estate or in the mortgage business or whatever field where we're serving, we have an impact on people, not just in what we do, but in how we do it and in who we are and how we show up as we do that work. And Rick, it's funny that I don't stay in touch with all the service providers that I've worked with over the years, but you and I have known each other a long time.
We have. It's been a long time.
I mean, I think that someone referred you to me, and you helped us with a refinance. I mean, maybe circa 2006, 7, 8, way back then. I don't remember that.
I have records of it.
But I remembered you because of it was just very clear to me that you were really good at what you did, that you enjoyed helping us through that process. You had systems in place that made it easy. So that's when I talk about alignment. You were so well aligned, and it's easy to work with someone like that. And so that's probably one of the reasons that we've stayed in touch, because I've always appreciated that about you.
Well, I appreciate that. It's funny because I think that's always the case. If you have your processes, you work it, you make it as smooth as possible. But I'm still working on purpose. I have a book I'm in the middle of called Purpose.
Oh, I was hoping you were going to say it was called Forces at Work.
Yeah, I'm going to read it. I didn't have a chance. I love to read. I read a tremendous amount. I get up really early in the morning. Like today, I got up at 3:25 a.m.
Wow.
and I read, right, and then I have a whole process of what I do. I exercise. I do a lot trying to get everything straight, because I think that's important.
Yeah.
But I hadn't really thought of purpose until I started reading this book. And quite honestly, the reason I'm reading the book is they sent it to me off of something I did, and they sent it to me, and I just came and I thought, I'll read it, right? It was in my stack. I finally got to it. So, and it's really interesting. It takes forever because probably like your book, you don't find it by just reading a book.
Yeah. I will say that for long, we weren't taught this in school, how to find your purpose, and I would love to get Forces at Work into the schools just to start to help people think about this, because, we're expected to make decisions for our life at a very early age. Before we're old enough to order a beer, we're supposed to know what we want to do with our lives. So, but I think that, now coaching has come so far, Rick, that really a good coach can help you get to your purpose in a couple of hours. And it's always evolving, and there's layers, but the essence of who you are and how you want to show up and what you want to contribute to the world, we can get you to that in just a couple hours. And I know you're going to ask me what my superpower is. And that's part of it. That is one component of your purpose, is what your superpower is.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite questions. So let's just do that now. What is your superpower? What would you say your superpower or superpowers are?
I would say it's 2 words, and it's connect and compel. And so the connection is what I value. That's one of my core values. Is I kind of believe that we could solve all the world's problems if we just connected the right people with each other. And so I've been doing that since I was a little kid, introducing people and connecting people. And I would do that all day long for free if I could. And I feel like it makes the world a better place. And then the compel piece of that is my greatest gift, or my greatest strength, is that I'm persuasive, and I always have been. It's a gift that I was given, and that's why I was good at sales or good at, whatever. And so now, the third part of purpose. So the first part is your greatest strength, your closest held core value. The third part of purpose, a good purpose statement, is your mission. And that really is just the application of your greatest strength and your core value towards a specific outcome. So for example, I wrote Forces at Work. Forces at Work is connect and compel. It's just in book form, and it's written to help, professionals who are feeling stuck or misaligned in their life or career. And so that's my mission, is to help them, get unstuck.
It's really interesting because connect, again, it's one of the things that many of the top agents tell me is extremely important as a real estate agent is being that person who can connect. So you teach people how to connect. So is there any little tidbits or, I know you can't tell us everything.
Oh, well, I mean, one basic thing is for anybody who's an entrepreneur, is to be authentic, to be yourself. I think there's a lot to be said about conventional wisdom and about how to meet people or how to network and all of that. But if it's not authentic and it doesn't resonate with you, that's going to come across. So you've got to find ways. And there are people who are great at sales who are not extroverts. Sales is about listening and about being able to position yourself as a guide. And we know that if you want to position yourself as a guide, I always encourage my clients to focus on two things. You need empathy and authority. You need to be able to say, hey, I understand your situation. I know what it feels like to be in your shoes, and I know what to do about it. And so I think in connection, be authentic, but also just keep yourself busy doing things that you love. Like you said, I'm a reader too. I'm at the library all the time. I meet people at the library. I love to exercise. I meet people at the gym. I love to travel. I meet people while I travel. Every time I go on a trip, I get a new client. So funny because I'll just be talking with someone on the plane or at the hotel. And that's an enjoyable way of getting out in the world. And you'll tend to find people who are like you or who understand you because they're doing those things that they love to be doing too.
Yeah. So if somebody wants to connect with you, what is the best way to get a hold of you?
The best way, it's going to be go to my website, and it's just missyshropshire.com. You can also Google forcesatwork.com. And I would encourage, if you want to get connected, just fill out the connect with me form. I don't send out a lot of email, but when I do have an event here in town, or if I'm doing a class or something, that's where I'll announce that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it's MISSYSHOPSHIRE.com.
Yeah. It's just the way it sounds. People always try to put a C or extra letters in there, but it's just Shropshire.
Yeah. Well, I can misspell my own name. Okay. I can misspell anything.
Right.
So, I mean, it's one of my superpowers.
There you go. Yeah.
So can you just kind of give us a little more direction on compel? What does that mean? How do we go about doing that?
Yeah, well, compel is to me it was a C word that stood for persuasion. I was like trying to make this catchy little purpose statement. And when I landed on that, it really resonated with me. Is connect and compel. And so I want to be compelling. I want to be compelled by truth and growth and be able to expand my purpose in the world. And I want to be compelling. So I love those two words. But for me, I think early on in my sales career, I thought my job was to persuade people that they needed something or to buy something. And now, as I've matured, I think my job is to compel people with their own truth. And so when I work with people, I help them kind of root out the inconsistencies in their life that they're really not okay with. And so instead of having to do my plan or come along with what I think is right, I try to help them build their own, sense of integrity of how I want to be and how I want to operate in the world.
Yeah. See now maybe you can tell me how mine is maybe I'm not talking about compel, because I've always worked, when I work with somebody, I haven't always, but I've learned that it's not, I don't want to make the decision for them.
Yeah.
I want to educate them.
Yeah.
That's what I work at. I work at, right. Let's take a real estate agent, right? Right now there's a big deal with the new law coming through, right?
Yes.
Everybody's a little worried about it. So I'm putting together information so that I can educate on how, as a lender, because it's going to be a big piece of it, on how you finance this commission, right? And how it works.
Yes.
So, so I'm almost done, so I can get that out and educate them on exactly what can be done. And I do that with my clients too, because I think, here's your options. Here's, why is an FHA better than a conventional? Well, it may be for somebody, but it may not be for another person, right? So they just have to understand so they can make the right decision for them. Is that kind of compel, or am I missing a piece?
Well, I think that's how you compel, is through education.
Okay.
And that might be a word that reflects your purpose. Is, mine is connect and compel. Yours might be educate and serve. So that's how, it's a perfect example of how you are going to differentiate yourself. You're going to do all this research and then kind of be hands off and give people what they need in order to make the decision.
Okay. So I
think that is compelling.
Yeah. I just try to understand, and hopefully other people who are listening will kind of get an idea of, and understand it. Now we've talked a little bit about, you've been in sales. Now, you were a top salesperson in a multi-billion-dollar company. You were in the top 2% of the, So you have the resume in sales, and you understand sales. So you understand how what we go through. Cause I think, it's a tough industry, any sales, but real estate agents have it really tough, I think.
Yeah. And I think with the new law coming out, it's definitely disconcerting, and it's got to be unsettling for a lot of people. But again, I always go back to Viktor Frankl in situations like this. And, probably you read this in high school. I know I did. And it's one of the books that has always stayed with me, is Man's Search for Meaning. And it's a story about how he survived in a German concentration camp. And I went back to this again during COVID. Anytime where I'm feeling helpless or like things are out of my control, Viktor Frankl says that the one freedom that's never taken away from us is our freedom to choose our response. And you saw during COVID where people freaked out and they just gave into fear and things just got crazy. And I think I did that too initially. Like, I was wearing masks, I was sanitizing everything, I was staying up night worrying about my family. And then at one point I realized, this is crazy. I had to turn the TV off and get back to a place of how choosing my response and choosing to be calm and measured and careful, but not fearful. And I think the same is true in this circumstance too, is in every time something like this comes up, there are people that are just going to throw their hands in the air and just get all worried about it. But there will be people who find the opportunity. And that's what we want to do, is we want to stop and pause, the power of the pause, choose our response, and look for the opportunities that will present themselves in any given situation.
Yeah. And that pause is in anything in life, even any reaction that you have, if you will just, and I'm not saying I'm really great at this, I just know this, it helps.
Yeah.
Is you stop and think about, okay, so what response do I want? And if you give us response based on what you think is the right response, life will go a lot easier and better.
Yeah. I think we know this, but to actually remember it in the moment, I think that we all make decisions from one of two places. We're going to make decisions from a place of fear and uncertainty, or from a place of love and confidence. And I learned this as a parent. I think I'm a worst case scenario person by nature. Like, I always imagine the worst case scenario of what can happen. And when I was with my kids, especially raising my daughter when she was, in her early, 19, 20, and she wanted to be out at night, nothing good happens after midnight. And, I would just worry about her. There's girls being abducted in Bloomington, and that's where she was going to school. And so when I would have conversations with her, what she was sensing was the fear behind it. And they never ended well. But when I could take a pause and shift my energy from a place of fear to a place of love and confidence, of my belief in her, because that's what she was looking for. She would say, Mom, you don't trust me. You don't think I'm smart. You don't think that's how she would interpret that. And when I came from a place of, look, I know you are smart and that you are careful and you take care of yourself. And there's crazy people out there, and I want you to continue to be vigilant and be aware of that. Whenever I was able to shift my energy and take responsibility for my own fear, those conversations went better. And I think the same thing is going to be true in this situation that your agents are facing. We need to be calm, we need to be measured, and we'll find the solutions. This will be figured out. Everything, there is a solution to every problem.
Yes.
And it will be figured out. And you just want to make sure you're on the cutting edge of the people that are figuring that out.
Yeah, I heard the number one agent in the country speak on this topic. He was on one of the people I'm a membership of. And he basically said, he said, we have to work together with our lenders and we have to educate ourselves, and we have to have our plan. And a buyer's agent now is going to need to have a presentation to their buyers, just like you have to your sellers.
Yeah.
And you had just
we already
addressed
know how to do that. So the great news is we already know how to do that. We just need to start implementing that and start
have
now.
the plan.
Be the first.
Yeah, that's right. Have the plan, get it out there. And I think the other thing is how do they get over being afraid of it? Because I think that's, you don't, I tend to be one who just does things. If I'm afraid of it, I do it first, right? But a lot of people don't do that.
Here's the thing is that which we resist persists. And I think sometimes the fear is it's like the stages of grief, it's like we don't want this to be true. We want to still fight it, and we want to still argue with reality. Basically what we're doing is arguing with reality. We're trying to make things go back the way they were. Well, that's not happening. You got to stop looking back, because that's not the direction we're going. And it's basic change management. It's just accepting the truth and the reality of where things are, and then choosing a belief. So I think sometimes fear is a choice. I mean, you can choose to work through your fear and to face it. And choosing to believe that you're at exactly the right place at exactly the right time, and you have everything you need to meet this challenge. So that is what I encourage my clients to do. It's like, let's not come from a place of deficiency or from being behind. Everybody's in the same boat here. So let's step onto this level playing field, and with this attitude that I am enough, I have enough, and I can figure this out.
Yeah, you got to believe you can figure it out, or you can't figure it out.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Yep. And we can.
And it's that connection again. I love this about real estate agents, is that there really is a camaraderie, and people, I know from when I was I think I did 14 transactions. I was in real estate for about a year and a half, and I did really well. I think one summer I did 14 transactions, and for a brand new real estate agent, that's not nothing. That was pretty good. But the camaraderie of people that were willing to help me, even people who were on the other side of the deal, we really strove to work together for solutions. And I think this is a time where we just really need to lean into that and to be supporting each other in that.
Yeah. And, that's what I've noticed. That's what impresses me about, one of the things that impresses me about our real estate community is that the vast majority of them will just help out without any thought of anything. They just want to be there and help out. And that says a lot about the quality of people that are real estate agents. And they have a bad name out there in the out there outside of the industry. Yeah. It's completely unfair.
It is too, like I've seen some of that. I'm not well versed in the law and all the nuances of what's going on, but I did read something. I think that was a New York Times article where it was like, agents are driving people because of the commissions. I never once looked at what the commission was going to be on a sale when I was in real estate. And I don't think that drove any of my colleagues at all. We showed up to serve and to help and to educate and help people with one of the most important decisions of their life. And I don't know any agents. I think those types of people, if they were doing that, they get eliminated out of the industry, just because if that's who they are, no one's going to want to work with someone like that.
I agree.
That would come. So I disagreed with that article so much, and I did not find that to be true of the industry at all. So
no, I haven't either.
That's the dialogue that's being out there right now.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna kind of switch subjects here and ask the question of the week. You might have heard it. Okay, question of the week. It's always
know what this is.
Okay. All right. Well, it's the hardest question we're going to ask. So what was your first car?
1977 Plymouth Volare.
Okay. Did you love it?
Yeah. Well, I loved that it could get me from point A to point B. I could see the road from inside the car, and it smelled like fumes, but it was, it was like old, 1977 Plymouth Volare. So, and everyone's singing that song in their head now, that Volare song. But yeah, that was my first car. But I was really proud of it. It cost $250, and I was able to buy it by myself.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. So what's been your favorite car that you've ever owned?
Well, it would have to be a fully loaded Cadillac SRX that I got as a gift from my previous sales job.
Oh, really? Awesome. Yeah. You still have that?
So it's a funny story. You know, I was a sales director with Mary Kay for years. And while I was in Mary Kay building my little empire, my little cosmetic empire, I earned 7 pink Cadillacs in Mary Kay.
Wow.
And I know people are always like, wow, that's really impressive. And then the second question is, what do you do with 7 pink cars? And my teenage boys drove them to high school. And my 18-year-old is driving one right now. If you go to the Carmel High School parking lot, you'll see a pink Cadillac in the driveway, and he drives it. So,
hey,
ironically, I don't drive a pink car anymore, but my husband drove one to work for years, and my kids drive them to school.
Yeah, well, I mean, a Cadillac's a Cadillac, right?
Yeah.
Who's going to complain? So, how can a realtor align their life and their work purpose? How do they align that? Because they have a lot of trouble with that.
Oh yeah, I mean like work-life balance.
Yes, work-life balance and aligning everything.
Yeah, it's just an ongoing because things change all the time. Seasons change. I know when I was in real estate, I had kids in high school, middle school, and grade school, and so this is where a coach can really help you. And I had a coach who was constantly helping me because once you get it all lined up, then it shifts again and you got to do it again. So I think that's one thing is maintaining an air of flexibility, always knowing your values and your priorities, so, when I was in Mary Kay, this is one of the things they do so well is they teach us to honor our priorities. Your family is more important than your business every time, every single time. And I think it's just in whatever season you're having a schedule, having a routine that works for you, that serves your family. I think as any entrepreneur, taking ridiculously good care of yourself. You've got to stay healthy. And if you're doing that, a lot of the other things will fall into place.
Yeah, I've had some of them tell me that, okay, so they've had a dinner with friends planned for 3 weeks. They're with their spouse, they're leaving the house, a phone call comes in, and it's somebody who wants to see $1 million house.
Mm-hmm.
And they want to see it right now. They're like, how do I not do that?
Well, I would first examine how often does that really happen. So get the facts, not the feeling, but get the facts. How often is that happening? And if it really is a problem, because we don't need to borrow tomorrow's problems. We can only solve today's problems with today's resources. So if we have that problem today, we've got to figure out how to handle that. And that's a conversation with the family. Is it in alignment with our priorities for me to excuse myself and go do that for this season of my life? Not forever, but just for this season, is that going to be okay? And I think that makes it a lot easier, Rick, is to say, for the next 3 months, I'm going to hit this big goal and I'm going to say yes and go whenever. And if the family's okay with that, do it. But if it becomes that I do that always, that begins to devalue your family and it erodes trust and relationship.
Okay. So that makes complete sense. It's kind of what I've been told by one agent who's actually kind of figured it out. He said, I have a plan. And he said, I set it up front. The customer knows. And he said, if I have to, I have teammates who will do it and they'll go take it. But he's been able to do that. And it's like you said, you got to have a plan. And if you work it out, because I would be what you said, I work it out with my family first so they understand. Now it's just my wife and I, so it's really easy. And, so it just makes it easier. I just think that's a big deal for a real estate agent. The next question I have is, and I have these written down, so I'm looking off so I make sure I ask it correctly. So we all have limiting beliefs.
Yeah.
Right. So how do we overcome them? How do we get past our limiting belief? Really, first we have to understand them, right? We have to know they're there. And then how do we overcome them?
Yeah, we really have to recognize what they are. And this is almost impossible to do by yourself. And it's one of the things that a coach can help you with. And that's why coaching is so effective and people get results so quickly because you have someone who cares about you, who's objective, who says, is that true? And challenges your limiting beliefs. And I do this all the time. And so there's 2 things that are true about belief. The first thing is that behavior always follows belief. So whatever it is you're believing, if you believe I'm too old, I'm too young, I don't know, whatever, your behavior will play that out. The second thing that's true about beliefs is that we choose them. So we do have the power because The brain is the tool of the mind. We can stop and challenge a belief. And I actually have a 5-step process that helps people actually walk through a belief. I identify it for them, and then I ask them these 5 questions. And by the end of the 5 questions, they're ready to let that belief go and choose another one. And the results are always dramatic and just amazing. So I think it's recognizing that we all have limiting beliefs and that they feel true. So that's the thing, is you have to know that your limiting beliefs feel true to you because you've been thinking them for a long time. And that's how our brain works. It develops ruts and patterns. So you have to have someone who's going to help you disrupt that belief and help you choose a new one.
Yeah. And you actually have a process. It's interesting that you have a process and it works so quickly, because most people this is one that you suffer with for years.
Yeah, it really is. It's one appointment in my office. Because positive psychology and neuroscience has come so far. And so we understand things. There's a great book out called Managing Thought by Mary Lore. She was the first person that shared that with me. It's like, oh, you can choose your beliefs and get a different result almost instantly. You could be going this direction and choose a new belief and start going this direction. One example is one time I was working with a woman and she wanted to hit a goal in her sales career. Excuse me. And tell me more about this. Why is it important? And she said she was disgusted with herself. She was like, oh, well, I should have done it by now. And that's an example of a limiting belief, is I should have done it by now. And it seems innocuous and harmless, but it's not, because that was the dialogue in her head, is I should have done this by now. And then I'm a failure. I couldn't do it. And it sets her up for failure in the present because she didn't accomplish it in the past. And so we did the 5-step questions, which very quickly the questions are, is it true? Where they always go, yes, because it feels true. And the second question, is it absolutely true, or is it always true? Do you know without a shadow of a doubt that you should have done it by now? And well, maybe it's not always true, or maybe it's not absolutely true. And then I will ask them, how do you think, act, or feel when you choose to believe this thought, that you should have done it by now? And here it comes. I feel like a failure. I feel like a loser. I feel like I'm behind. I feel like I'm not good enough. Well, that's the fruit of that thought. And we're beginning to see that whether it's true or not, it's not helpful. And we start to loosen its grip. And then I'll ask, how would you feel if you could no longer physically think that thought anymore? If I could pull that thought out of your mind and you didn't have access to it anymore, how would you feel? And usually it's like, I'd feel relieved. I would feel hopeful. I would feel like I have a chance that I could do this. And then I'll ask them, what's more true than I should have done this by now? And this is based on the work of Byron Katie, she wrote a book called Loving What Is. And it's just, it really helps you kind of choose new thoughts. And so in this case, I asked it because we have to replace the thought. We can't if we just eliminate a thought, something else will fill that gap in our brain, because it's a neural pathway. It literally is, you could take a picture of your thoughts and see them. And so in this case, she chose a new thought. I said, what's more true than I should have done it by now? And she thought, and then she looked at me and her eyes just lit up and she said, my time is now. And so she started choosing to repeat that mantra to herself instead of the limiting belief or the self-defeating. And limiting beliefs are usually a way to protect us, to protect our ego. Because if we keep saying that about ourselves, it just keeps us from trying, and it keeps us from feeling like we're failing.
Yeah, there's a guy I follow. I'm a member of his, but he says, thoughts become things, so choose the good ones, or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's absolutely true. That our thoughts become, really, our thoughts are why we are where we are today, right?
Yeah. Yep. And even to get back to your question about real estate agents, so there's 3 levels of motivation that I see in people. And we have the lowest level of motivation is desperation. And that's when a client comes into my office and I hear them saying things like, I have to, I need to. It's almost like they've got a gun to their head and if I don't do this, it's really bad things are going to happen. And so that's motivation by desperation. And it's actually really effective because it engages our fight or flight response. But we weren't designed to live in flight or fight, for the rest of our very consistently. And so what happens is we get burnout. If we continually use desperation as our form of motivation, and also it makes the people around us really tired. We're not invited to parties anymore because that's no fun to be around someone who's like that stressed out all the time. And then the middle form of motivation that I see is rationalization. And that's when I should. And that's when we're a little bit too married to conventional wisdom and what other people are doing. Because when I hear should, well, I should work out. I should do this. I should do that. What I hear is someone who's not taking responsibilities for themselves and for what they believe and what they think is best for them. They're still relying on other people and best practices and things like that. So I hear a lot of shoulds, and that's rationalization. And I think we all go through a period where we got to explore that. But the highest form and the best form of motivation is inspiration. And that's when we can do what we really want to do. And that's when, in your case of the real estate agent who's sitting at dinner, they have a compelling vision for their life that doesn't just include their sales goal, but includes their relationship with their family, the way they handle themselves in situations like that. And they can do what they want to do in that situation without fear of loss or something bad happening. So that's what we try to move towards.
Yeah, I think it's fascinating because you obviously really understand our psychological how we work, and so that's really helpful for people. So if somebody thought, well, I'd really like to work with you as a coach, what's the best way for them to get a hold of you?
Yeah. The first thing I would recommend is for them to read the book. It's on Audible, it's on Spotify, and you can get a paperback. It's on Amazon, because the book is it's 20 years of coaching summarized, and it's a power-packed little book. And most people tell me they read it in one weekend because it really kind of walks you through all these issues. What is my purpose? How can I start to step fuller into my purpose? How do I create a compelling vision for my life and my business that aligns and feels good to me? How do I increase my agency, which is my sense of really authority and how I show up and how I make decisions? So all of those, I really have made a concise case for all of those different ideas in the book. So get the book. If you like the book, you're going to like working with me. If you don't like the book, you probably want to move on and find a different coach. And then I have a great opportunity right now, a group that I call Powerful Partners. And I wrote about this in the book too, because my core value is connection. And I have been able to connect people together for just amazing purposes and wonderful things that are happening in the world. And so I have a group coaching program right now called Powerful Partners. It's a 1-year program where you get individual one-on-one coaching sessions with me. You get the benefit of an amazing group of people for a monthly accountability call. And then I host a quarterly event here in town called Forces at Work Live. And the next one is going to, and anyone can come to Forces at Work Live. It's a lunch, it's a workshop, and the next one is on July 18th. And I already have registration open for that on my website. So,
okay.
Great place to come and network and to expand your personal and professional network.
Okay, perfect. So the Powerful Partners are group coaching, which is, I've never done group coaching. I've always done individual, but I put off coaching forever. It's actually my youngest son. He went to IU also. All my boys went to IU, and he was in a business fraternity, and they use mentors. And he's 31. He's done phenomenally well because he always has mentors. He always has a coach. It's helped him immensely. So I saw the value of it. I was one who is like, well, I'm not going to listen to him, so I'm not going to do it.
Well, that's the thing, because there's a difference between a consultant and a coach. You know, coaching is actually the #1 preferred method of leadership development in the country right now. But people know that, and everybody wants a coach now. But a lot of people can't articulate actually the difference between coaching, teaching, training, mentoring, or a PIP, a personal improvement plan. So a good coach doesn't tell you what to do. A good coach helps you make better decisions about what to do. So it's different. Yeah.
Yeah. That's what I found. If I had known, I would have started much sooner and been a lot better off, I think.
Yeah.
But I did want to read what Bob Goff, Goff.
Yeah.
who's a New York Times bestselling author, because you're talking about the book, and I think this is important. I'm not the greatest. I'm a great reader, but I'm not great reading it out loud. They used to make fun of me in school, so I still have that limiting belief. Okay?
Now is your time, Rick.
Forces at Work is a love letter for anyone who feels stuck, pigeonholed, or misaligned in their life or career. If you are looking for theory, you won't find it here. What you'll find is deep empathy and a framework for clarity based on Missy's hard-won life lessons. You'll be gently guided by the skills and expertise or experience of a gifted coach who meets you where you are and helps you reflect and take action to realign your life with a purpose. Missy has already helped hundreds of people find their courage and conviction to step into their highest aspirations. I know this book will help her reach many more because, just like me, she is in love with your potential, and together, all of us are forces at work. And that's Bob Goff. I thought that was, that just says a lot. Obviously, he's a great writer, so he knows how to communicate. But that, and that wasn't the only. There was another one, but I picked that one, and I guess I got rid of the. No, here it is. And this is why I wasn't going to do this one, because I can't pronounce his last name. Stephen.
Oh, fantastic. Stephen Fantastic.
Yeah. So who is an award-winning producer, songwriter, and educator. And he says, here's the truth. When Missy walks into the room, the impossible suddenly feels possible. Problems become opportunities, and far-fetched dreams become tangible. She will move heaven and earth to help you believe in yourself. To me, those things say it all. If somebody... They should,
and Stephen is the very first story in the book, chapter 1. It might be chapter 2, but he's the very first story that I share in the book, because when I met Stephen, he was very misaligned with his work, and he had a ton of limiting beliefs. And as he came into my office, and we worked together for 6 months, and he is living his dream right now, and he's impacting so many people. Like he's writing music for sitcoms. He's working with many prolific artists, and he's become a professor. So one of the things that came out as we were coaching is, and this is my superpower, my gift too, is I see potential in people, and I am able to just kind of move all things aside and say, wait, what about this? Because there was this one piece of his story, that puzzle piece that didn't fit. And it was this love for education. And so I didn't write this part in the book, but one of the things that he tried out during our coaching time was he became an elementary school teacher. And I'm like, you were going to hate that because of the institutional and all that. He did kind of end up hating it, but it was part of the process where because he wanted to be an educator on some level, and it was definitely a part of his DNA, but he hadn't found a way to express it yet. And so what ended up happening is he ended up getting an honorary doctorate from Stanford University so that they could bring him on to teach this incredible course, because they wanted someone with real life producing experience to teach their students and to make it relevant and current, which education really needs right now.
Yes.
Because they have a lot of competition coming up. You can learn almost anything on the internet. And Stephen has stepped into this space so beautifully, where he's creating his own music. He's helping other artists with their recordings. And now he's also teaching students. And he's doing all three of those things simultaneously, and they are working together symbiotically, and it's just really amazing. So that's one of my favorite recommendations that I've ever gotten, because it makes me feel like my work matters, and it's really helping people in the world.
Well, we're running out of time, so is there any last words of wisdom you'd like to share with the audience?
Just really gratitude, Rick. I'm so thankful for the opportunity to have known you and worked with you, and just delighted that you asked me to be on. Even though I'm not currently a real estate agent anymore, I certainly love working with agents and have a tremendous amount of respect for the work that you do as a mortgage advisor, and that they do in helping people make one of the biggest decisions of their life. And I'll be in touch as soon as the rates drop, so we can refinance my house and I can redo my kitchen.
Yeah, you and everybody else. I can't wait. It's
on your short list of people to call. Like, Missy, it's time. Let's do it. So,
we wish they'd come down. They just haven't yet. So, one more time, the best way to get a hold of you.
Go to my website, because you're going to learn about, if you want to come to a live event in Indy, check out events, Forces at Work Live. I'd love to see you there. If you want to learn about group coaching, it's called Powerful Partners. And obviously reading the book. You can get that on Amazon, but you can access all of that at MissyShropshire.com.
Perfect. Well, I appreciate it, Missy. Thanks so much for joining me today. You've been awesome.
Thank you. Well, it's been my pleasure, and I really enjoyed the time.
No,
Hopefully
perfect.
we'll have a lot of people today.
Yeah, I hope so. And if anybody wants to get a hold of me, you can go to hardworkingmortgageguy.com. That's hardworkingmortgageguy.com. Thanks for joining us. Have a great day.
Branch NMLS number 33041. Ripma's NMLS number 6645889. Arnold's NMLS number is 1995469. Equal housing opportunity. Some restrictions apply.